When a man loses a woman who truly cared for him, something profound happens inside him, though not immediately. At first, he may feel confident in his decision or numb from the separation, thinking life will simply move on. But life has a way of creating mirrors, and sooner or later, he's forced to look into one. It's in the quiet spaces of his day, driving alone, waking up in the morning, scrolling through old photos, that realization begins to settle in. He starts to see her face not as a memory, but as a moment of truth. He recalls the way she spoke to him with patience, even when she was tired. He remembers the comfort of her presence, how she grounded his chaos without trying to control it. Slowly, the mind that once rationalized the loss begins to feel the weight of what it dismissed. This is the law of realization. People don't value what they don't understand until absence teaches them the meaning of value. He begins to notice that other people don't listen the way she did. That laughter isn't as genuine when it's not shared with someone who truly knows you. That conversations feel empty when the person in front of you doesn't see your soul, only your surface. The world looks the same, but it feels different. The warmth that used to surround him has gone cold, and he can't quite name why. That's when regret first whispers, not through pain, but through recognition. He starts to see her energy in places she no longer exists. The song she loved, the scent she wore, the tone of her voice. They replay like echoes in the background of his mind. He realizes that what he lost was not just a person, but the emotional ecosystem that her love created. She wasn't just present, she was the quiet pulse that gave rhythm to his days. The realization deepens when he recognizes that he took her steadiness for granted. He remembers the moments when she showed up for him even when he was distant, the times she believed in him more than he believed in himself. He begins to feel the depth of what he once called normal. That's the irony of human nature. We often call the extraordinary ordinary until it's gone. When she was there, he thought love was endless, that connection was easy, that attention was permanent. But when she walked away, he saw that it wasn't her responsibility to hold what he wasn't nurturing. That's when the guilt arrives, not as punishment but as awareness. He looks back on the small details that once felt insignificant. Her texts checking in, her excitement when he shared his wins, her silence when he was unkind. Each memory becomes a lesson, each recollection a mirror. He starts to understand that her patience was strength, her care was generosity, and her loyalty was a gift he failed to see. The law of realization doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives quietly in the stillness of regret. It shows him what was real only when he can no longer touch it. And it teaches him that love is never lost. It's merely transferred from the ungrateful to the deserving when a woman steps away from a man who once had her heart. The balance of energy between them shifts in ways that are almost invisible but deeply felt. It's not just about her physical absence. It's the withdrawal of her emotional current, the quiet power that once flowed toward him in 1,000 subtle ways. Her good morning messages that once started his day with warmth, her voice that brought calm when he was overwhelmed, her understanding that made him feel seen. All of it fades, and in its place comes silence. That silence isn't empty, it's filled with the vibration of everything he took for granted. Where there was once connection, now there is space. And in that space, awakening begins. A man doesn't always realize the influence of a woman's presence until her energy is gone. He feels something missing, though he can't name it at first. Life feels heavier, the air slightly colder, his motivation a little thinner. What he's feeling isn't loneliness, it's the absence of emotional nourishment. It's the void left by a woman who gave without demanding, who loved without conditions, who supported without keeping score. Her energy was never loud, but it was steady, consistent, grounding. When it's no longer there, his world feels less vibrant, his days less inspired. That's when his mind begins to replay moments he ignored. The way she smiled even when she was tired, the way she believed in him when he doubted himself, the way she always seemed to understand what he couldn't say. Her absence creates contrast. It's the contrast between being seen and being looked at, between being cared for and being managed, between being loved and being tolerated. Other people may come into his life, but none bring the same emotional rhythm. The conversations feel surface level, the laughter feels forced, the connection lacks that unspoken depth he once had. This is how energy teaches lessons, through contrast. He starts to recognize that what he once perceived as ordinary was actually rare, that the peace he felt with her wasn't luck. It was the manifestation of her emotional intelligence, her empathy, her quiet strength. In the energetic realm of relationships, presence is power. When a woman walks away with her energy intact, she reclaims her power entirely. The dynamic that once revolved around her giving and his receiving now reverses. He feels the emptiness she left behind, while she feels the expansion of her own spirit returning home to her. It's an energetic rebalancing, and in that rebalancing, he begins to awaken. He realizes that it wasn't her words or gestures that made him feel alive. It was the vibration of her presence, the way she breathed life into his world without even trying. Her absence becomes the mirror that shows him how much light she carried. He begins to sense her in ways that aren't physical. A memory, a scent, a sudden flash of emotion that catches him off guard. It's as if her energy still lingers, reminding him of what he failed to protect. But this time, it's not her doing the giving. It's life reflecting the lesson. Her absence becomes the awakening he never sought but desperately needed. It humbles him, it grounds him, and it makes him aware that love is not just about proximity. It's about the energy we nurture and the balance we either cherish or break. There comes a point when the ache of loss turns into reflection, when the noise of pride fades and a man is left alone with the sound of his own thoughts. It's in this silence that he starts to see himself clearly, perhaps for the first time. At first, he thinks he misses her. He misses her smile, her scent, her laughter that filled the room with ease. But as time stretches on, he realizes it's not just her he's missing. It's the version of himself that existed when he was with her. She made him better without saying a word. She held up a mirror to his potential, to his goodness, to the man he could have been. And now that mirror is gone, leaving only his reflection, raw, unfiltered, and unescapable. This is the mirror moment when a man stops blaming her absence and starts confronting his own behavior. He remembers how she tried to communicate, how she asked for emotional honesty, how she sought connection instead of control. He recalls his impatience, his defensiveness, his inability to meet her halfway. In the moment, he justified it. He thought being strong meant being right. He mistook distance for independence and silence for peace. But now, looking back, he can see the truth, that she was not asking for perfection. She was asking for presence. She wasn't trying to change him. She was trying to reach him, and he refused to listen. This realization doesn't come as a flash of insight. It unfolds slowly through memories, regrets, and late night reflections. Every relationship is a mirror that reveals who we are beneath our pretenses. She reflected his warmth when he was kind and his coldness when he withdrew. She showed him his potential, but also his limitations. When she left, that reflection didn't vanish. It imprinted on his soul. He begins to see that her leaving wasn't punishment, it was consequence. It was the universe's way of showing him that love cannot survive where self-awareness is absent. He now sees the small ways he dismissed her efforts, the times he made her feel unseen, the moments she stood in silence because words no longer mattered. The truth stings, but it also opens him. He starts to feel compassion for the woman he hurt, and slowly for himself too. Not as an excuse, but as understanding. This is where transformation begins. Regret is not just sorrow, it's a signal that growth is possible. He begins to question the man he was. Why did he act that way? Why did he push away someone who loved him so deeply? These questions lead him inward, toward the deeper layers of his fears, his pride, his emotional immaturity. He begins to realize that love was never about control, it was about vulnerability. That the strength she admired in him was not in his dominance, but in his softness, the part he was too afraid to show. And now, with her gone, he finally sees it. The mirror moment strips away his ego, revealing the truth that love's greatest teacher is loss. And that growth only begins when a man faces himself without the woman who once believed he could be more. When regret settles in, it doesn't stay still. It moves through a man like a restless tide, pushing him toward action. The realization that he mishandled something sacred becomes too heavy to ignore. He begins to remember the moments he could have done differently. The arguments that didn't need to escalate. The times he could have chosen empathy over pride. The opportunities he had to reassure her but chose silence instead. At first, he tells himself it's not too late. He thinks maybe somehow he can reach out, fix things, prove that he's changed. That's when the pursuit of redemption begins. It doesn't always look like a grand gesture. Sometimes it's subtle. A text that lingers unsent. A look at her social media profile that ends in silence. A conversation with mutual friends to see how she's doing. It's the quiet pull of the heart trying to repair what the mind knows it broke. He begins to replay every memory, searching for clues about where it all started to fall apart. He wonders if she ever thinks about him, if she misses the good parts, if she still feels the connection he feels so strongly now. But this isn't really about her. It's about him trying to find peace within himself. Regret demands redemption because the heart cannot rest until it feels reconciled with its own mistakes. He might try to rewrite the story, promising that he's changed, that he finally understands, that he won't take her for granted again. But the truth is, redemption isn't in the words, it's in the transformation. He begins to see that what he's chasing isn't her forgiveness, it's his own. He starts to act differently, not just in hopes of winning her back, but because something inside him has shifted. He notices how he listens more deeply now, how he's more patient, more self-aware. The pain of losing her has softened his edges and opened his heart. This pursuit of redemption turns into a journey of becoming. He wants to prove that he's not the man who let her slip away, not to her, but to himself. He starts to understand the sacredness of love, the responsibility that comes with being seen and trusted by another soul. The impulse to reconnect may still linger, but the deeper drive is to evolve, to rise into the kind of man who wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. Sometimes he reaches out, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he gets a response, sometimes silence. But whether she returns or not, the energy of his regret fuels a quiet transformation. He starts to give more thought to his words, to his actions, to the way he shows up in relationships. He begins to realize that love was never about possession, it was about alignment. He tries to recreate that connection in other places, but it never feels the same. Because he's not trying to find another her. He's trying to find the part of himself that existed when she loved him. And that pursuit, that quiet striving for redemption, becomes both his punishment and his path to growth. The long journey of a man learning to become worthy of the love he once lost. There is a certain heaviness that comes with realizing the consequences of one's choices, a weight that no distraction or denial can lift. When a man truly begins to feel the emotional reckoning of losing someone who loved him deeply, it doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly, through familiar places, passing thoughts, or moments of stillness that he can no longer escape. At first, he tells himself it's just nostalgia, that what he's feeling will fade with time. But then the memories start to sting differently. The moments he dismissed or ignored begin to replay in vivid color. He remembers the softness in her eyes when she looked at him, the way her laughter filled spaces that now feel unbearably quiet. He remembers the way she cared for him when he was distant, the way she stayed patient when he gave her reasons not to. Those memories, once taken for granted, now carry an ache, not because they're gone, but because he finally understands their meaning. he begins to feel the full weight of what he once refused to see. It's not just about losing her, it's about realizing that love like that doesn't come often. He starts to recognize the imbalance between what she gave and what he returned. The texts he ignored, the moments he shut down instead of opening up, the times she reached out with love and he responded with indifference. All of it forms a quiet symphony of regret. He feels it in the silence of his phone, in the spaces where her presence used to fill the room. The weight isn't only emotional, it's spiritual. It's the soul acknowledging that it failed to honor something sacred. And that realization doesn't simply bring sadness, it brings humility. As he begins to sit with these emotions, they start to teach him. Regret becomes a mirror of truth, showing him how easily we can hurt the people who only wanted to love us. He begins to understand that emotional reckoning isn't about punishment, it's about awakening. The pain he feels now is the same pain she once felt while trying to hold on to something that was slipping away. The same confusion, the same longing, the same unanswered questions. It's almost as if life has flipped the script, giving him her side of the story so that he can understand what love costs when it isn't cherished. This phase changes the way he sees everything. He no longer romanticizes the past, he studies it. He doesn't just remember her voice, he remembers how he failed to listen. He doesn't just think about her leaving, he thinks about how he made staying impossible. And through it all, his emotions deepen. Guilt, longing, tenderness, even admiration. For the first time, he sees her as she truly was, not just someone who loved him, but someone who deserved better. The emotional reckoning humbles him, strips him of pride, and replaces it with clarity. It makes him realize that love, once lost, doesn't disappear. It lives on as a silent reminder of who we could have been had we chosen differently. There is a moment far more powerful than the break itself. The moment when he realizes you are no longer waiting for him. At first, he might have assumed you would linger, that your love would remain tethered to him, that even in your silence, he would still hold space in your heart. But time has a way of reshaping energy. The woman who once poured herself into loving him begins to pour that same energy into herself. The light that used to illuminate his world now shines through her own. And while he remains caught between memories and regrets, she evolves. She grows softer in strength, clearer in purpose, freer in spirit. He starts to see glimpses of this transformation, perhaps through mutual friends, a chance encounter, or a quiet scroll through her social media. And suddenly, he realizes something devastating yet beautiful. She no longer belongs to the version of himself that once took her for granted. He watches from a distance as the woman he once knew becomes someone more grounded, more radiant, more in control of her own world. The same heart that once sought his validation now beats to its own rhythm. The same eyes that once looked for answers in him now shine with self-assurance. It's not that she's become someone new. It's that she's finally become who she always was beneath the weight of trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see her value. This shift creates an unmistakable power dynamic, not of dominance, but of evolution. While he is haunted by what was, she is inspired by what's next. His world revolves around the memory of her, while hers expands beyond it. He begins to feel the strange ache of being left behind. Not because she intended to wound him, but because her growth exposes his stagnation. She is no longer a reflection of his comfort, she has become a reflection of his loss. Every achievement she celebrates, every smile she wears, every peaceful silence she enjoys becomes a quiet reminder of the strength she found without him. He starts to understand that her leaving was not an act of rejection. It was a declaration of self-worth. And as she rises, he is forced to confront the truth that the love he once assumed was his to reclaim is now out of reach, not because she hardened her heart, but because she healed it. This realization cuts deeper than loneliness. It's the pain of seeing someone become everything you once suppressed, everything you once underestimated. He feels pride for her growth, but it's laced with sorrow. The kind that comes when you realize you were only a chapter in a story that continued without you. He starts to understand that true loss isn't when someone leaves, it's when they outgrow the place you kept them in. And the most haunting part of all is knowing that she didn't rise to make him regret. She rose because she finally remembered who she was before she ever to prove her worth to him. That's the power shift he never saw coming, the one that leaves him forever looking back, while she walks forward with quiet grace.